Alright, please allow me to introduce myself as the Third King Priest Prophet Travesty, Peter Pawn of Oh Nothing Very Special in Heaven, now appearing here on Mother Earth, Nature, World, Planet, Theater, Stage, Garden of Eden, Dump Monument to the Echo Cuckoo-nomical, comical, so very serious, material wealth, health, false profiting, opportunity systems, free tax, paid parade. We bought our rights to claim our freedom. God gave us a sky quality, equality, wise, free, eternal spirituality, mentality, simple, multiple, loving personalities, individuality, with sky majorities ruling over all majorities, trinities, unities, realities, reality, of silver sky, she, he, starlight, heart, mind, time, traveling, warp speed, sky, white lights, reflections of a grand central station receiving unity unit. Yeah, transmitting personal interpretations of our receptions of our sky quality, equality, wise, free, eternal, spiritual, space, race, ace, communications, receptions gains, from a trinity. Feel real sky free, compassionately, passionately, sensitively, tenderly, lovingly, caringly, sharingly, givingly, forgivingly. Sky quality, equality, wise, free, eternal, spiritual, silver, pure, strong, heart, magnetisms, personal sky, truth, serenity, wisdom, emotional rewards, comprehension. No sky quality, equality, wise, free, eternal, spiritual, seeing, hearing, feeling, dealing, smelling, tasting, while sky experiencing, thinking, wandering, imagining, dreaming on a dream of dreams of world peace. Now, as the famous unknown bipolar mental illness writer, comedian, actor, disc jockey of the Hebrew King Solomon wisdom of songs, of King David Psalms and Bathsheba blues, rock on. As I was born in the mad city of the cheese state, you can call me Jesus, as I am the mess higher, seeking capital to open up a cheese shop in Nazareth and call it Jesus of Nazareth. As a Nazarite who does not cut a hair on our head, we took a vow of celibacy till we get married, becoming a salesman to sell a bit of wit. Because we never could afford a good education. Hell, we can't even afford to pay attention. However, we started our own business that we call the IRS, where we are a president tax on Eggman selling individuality reality systems. No sales yet. Everyone we met already had one or couldn't handle the information downloading. We also have a free thoughts for sale, but rare is it we ever meet someone who can afford the time and pay attention to this worded wizard, chicken gizzard, lizard, blizzard from Oz, your humor Dr. Broken Brain games to remain sane in our mainframe live computer. Brainstorming, rhapsodizing thought as specialist, paragraph writer, writing wrong right effectively, chief king captain my way, a highway. Reverend Minister, Master, Pastor, Faster of Universal Life Church on the Hill Prison Ministries, of a bipolar master of our own greatest extreme theme song, Dream On, learn from fools, learn from sages, ages, rages, and rages, engages, pages of memories, of admitting to having multiple personalities, but not to worry with how I organize them into such an order I got rid of the disorder. As a preacher, teacher, creature of double features, of double vision, day or night visions, an absent-minded confessor, professor, Dr. Doolittle Riddle Fiddler of the Nimrod curse verse. The first religion lost to one I disagree. Was the second, and the third is absurd, being her writing that since man learned to write, he started learning from a lack of what cannot be written that still should be learned, about our eternal, spiritual, living, loving sky life, where the spirituality reality is our only true reality, where some were born to be thinkers and some were born to be doers, and many are good at doing both, where I actually think enough that I was meant to be more of a thinker. Now, you'd have to understand that, when I was first diagnosed as a manic depressive in late 78, they did not have dual diagnosis, and lithium was still experimental. So I started with the Thorazine Shuffle, doing a lot of thinking about my thinking, looking for what was wrong with my thinking, finding a lot of thoughts, thinking about my thinking, looking for what was wrong with my thinking, realizing that all of my thoughts, thinking about my thinking, looking for what was wrong with my thinking, was to be best summarized as my total thought of all my thoughts, thinking about thinking. Human being, common folk, joke lore more often call thinking too much, as if there is something wrong with it. As if you ever met those who have this how not to think about it philosophy, as if it isn't still thinking, that I consider a waste of time thinking in such non-productive ways. that if I'm going to go on thinking anyway, I might as well make the best of learning how to think and my best ways of thinking. If learning how to think was more fun, maybe more people would want to do it. And we might as well add in, if believing was more fun, maybe more people would want to do it. Well, I'm sorry that God didn't give me enough proof to prove it to anyone else, but try to understand I can never unthink it all and figure the best part of thinking so much is I have more to forget. As I am only a prophet travesty, not a cure-all, as there are two things I cannot do for anyone else, and that is feel for you or think for you. As I love to study all I know, to know all I know, the best I could know it. Because I know it is something that I'm the only one who can best do this for me. As the more I study, the more I learn. With the more I learn, the more I know. And I know few ever reach a personally, originally, uniquely different sky quality, equality-wise, free, eternal spirituality, mentality, simple, multiple, loving personalities, individuality. And so it seems the older we get, the more we seem to forget. And with the more that we forget is the less we know. With the less we know is the less that we have learned. So I study. Oh, I find them same old-fashioned, quite trite, robotic gimmick mimicry of human being common folk joke lore and more expressions can get absolutely positively boringly repetitious. As a half-wit sperm in a moment, it got into the woman of an Eggman, believed that the sperm and the egg had their own mind, body, spirit, and heart, and soul, and is the foundation of dual to multiple personalities into the cellular structures in molecular motion, multiplying into 60 trillion cells times their DNA chemical compounds, times their atoms, times the protons, neutrons, and electrons of those atoms, times the particles of the protons, neutrons, and electrons, each producing their own quantum physical waves productions. Possible thought transmission is a lot of thought at any given moment. And let's just say I put all of this knowledge into the single electron and took off to be the wandering ion eon. Yeah, I know it's like traveling at 30 thoughts per second, where at the end of the day we thought enough for a month, at the end of the year we thought enough for 30 years, at the end of 35 years we thought for more than 10 100-year lifetimes compared to a single thoughter, of course, because I'm sure I'm not the only multiple thoughter. As I asked the spirits how old I was one day, and they say pick a number, so I picked 13 trillion light years old. And for those 13 trillion years, as Peter Pan of heaven, I had an absence of knowledge of evil until one day, the end of 59, flying by Earth, I overheard a discussion of the wrath of God. And went to ask Dad, for one of these human being common folk joke lore, more eternal spiritual life forms, to try and figure this out. And I had no idea I was going to have to go through a forget-me ceremony, and by the time I remember, I have no idea where those people had gone off to. But I sure do miss my absence of knowledge of evil, but I figured, the more I see of it, the better my memories of life without it get. As much as I miss my childhood curiosity, that died in my information collections, knowledge accumulations, as in the more I learned, the less there was to be curious about, as to where I found the best values in the use of a free gift of an imagination is pretending to feel like I did in my original discovery of my thoughts to make our best expressions of them and sharing them with others, where a good teacher always remains a good student, for one day a good teacher will teach the good student all that they know, and then with the good student has learned all that the teacher had to teach and comes up with an idea that the teacher had never thought of before. The teacher had become the student and the student had become the teacher. Now I'd like to thank you on behalf of all the spirits, and I hope we pass the audition.